Hey everyone, welcome to another episode of Make Gains. Today we are going to be talking about the Airbnb market and how it is crashing. Let's get into it.
You might not know this, but the Airbnb market on the coast has been crashing out for a couple years now. There have been so many vacancies and so many empty rentals all over the coast, Florida, Georgia, South Carolina, North Carolina, that people are starting to freak out and they are all putting their homes and condo homes for sale. About 3 to 4 years ago, there were hardly any listings for sale under 300,000 in Myrtle Beach, and now there's like 1,500 condos. I have a reason for this, and I'm going to explain why. This is my personal opinion, but I've been doing real estate for over 26 years. I am a team leader for 2 high-performing teams in North and South Carolina, and I've been watching the market steadily. I also own Airbnbs, and this might be controversial, but I think a whole bunch of people during COVID used their PPP loan to buy Airbnb rental properties thinking they could get rich. Because no one could travel, no one could go abroad, no one could go anywhere, and they had all this extra money. So they were traveling to Myrtle Beach and Florida and going to all these places, and the Airbnb nightly rates were skyrocketing. There was a shortage of places to stay. So what did a bunch of people do? They bought rental properties and had no education. They did not know that sometimes when the market is bad for rental properties, you have to carry the note, the HOA dues, the insurance, everything, the taxes for a while sometimes when you have a lot of vacancy. And I also think lenders are at fault here because they were making loans like crazy just to anyone. If you had 20, 30, 40% down, they just made you the loan. Well, so I've been talking to many sellers and they are tired of paying the vacancy. They're barely breaking even in some cases. Look at the economy. Everybody's in a bad place. And now if you travel, you can travel abroad. You can go anywhere you want. So people aren't spending $400 a night in an Airbnb in Myrtle Beach anymore. It's the nicer units, the more beautiful units that are winning out on the rentals. So if you have a junky unit that you paid all the money for during COVID, you're sitting empty. And now these sellers want to sell. They've only owned these places for like 2 or 3 years and they can't sell. They're not selling. They're just sitting. The condos here are sitting for 120, 160, 180 days and not selling. On top of it, Myrtle Beach had a hurricane not too long ago, which drove up all the insurance prices, and then a whole bunch of buildings had assessments due to flooding and damage. These people are having to come out of pocket sometimes $10,000, $15,000 for an assessment, and their insurance doubled and tripled. Right now, the rate's being at, 7% or 6%. That doesn't mean that an investor can get that rate. You got to tack on another 1.5%. Typically, interest rates for investors to buy properties are probably in the 8s or 9s. So there is no real push to buy these places because investors are waiting for ones that they can get a deal on. They're actually out here making offers 20, 50, 100,000 less than asking. Listen, if you're an investor that can pay cash, you can get a deal. If you own these cash, you're fine because you can probably break even with the taxes, insurance, and HOA dues. Or if you're going to gamble a little bit, like a lot of people do, they use like real estate as a gambling vehicle and they don't even care about the rate right now. They're trying to get a deal, get the loan locked in, and they're going to put it on like a 5-year balloon, amortize over 30 years, and then they're just going to refinance it when rates go down. I work with a lot of savvy investors and I am also one of those. I consider myself, and I've been buying properties at a higher interest rate. I'm not really making a lot of cash flow, but I'm waiting for the trend of the interest rates to go down. I will refinance later.
So this is an interesting one. Tons of people bought these properties and now they're stuck with them. What she's saying is true. If you look at Zillow, go look at Myrtle Beach, Hilton Head, Destin, Florida. There are tons of properties. If you look at Clearwater, Florida, a hurricane came through Tampa not too long ago. There are tons of houses gutted from 4 feet down that are beach properties. People were trying to sell and get out of. Like they were paid off. Insurance gave them a settlement. So instead of trying to fix the place up and then sell it at a high rate that nobody's buying for anymore, they just pocket the cash and they're selling you a house that needs to be completely redone because there's no sheetrock on the walls. There's no cabinets. It's kind of crazy. And same thing, like in Hilton Head, South Carolina, hurricane came through not too long ago and they had to, like a lot of those condos had to be completely redone. New flooring, new walls, all that. They're selling for so much because one, these people have so much invested into them. So interest rates are up, which causes your payment to be way more. On top of that, insurance rates have skyrocketed because of all these extra risks with these hurricanes. So that is causing this Airbnb market to be crazy, coupled with what she was talking about, which is people can actually travel now. Why would you spend $400 a night for a place on the beach locally or within a couple states whenever you can travel somewhere beautiful for cheap? You can get a full week all-inclusive, including airfare, for $2,000 in a lot of instances. Why would anybody want to pay $2,500 just to stay in a condo for 5 days? It's not a real problem, and all these folks are starting to realize that they might be in over their heads with this, so they're trying to get out. On top of that, you've got issues with these Airbnbs because there's so many of them, and a lot of these listings are not even right anymore. You're seeing stuff like this.
We just got catfished. We got catfished on VRBO. This is supposed to be a sunlit escape, and okay, this is really cute, right? This is really cute. But then you walk over here. Why is there a demon on the wall? First of all, that's just scary. And it's like a bar, like this is like a man cave. And this is what the bedroom looks like. This is not what the bedroom looked like. And there's a sink here and it smells really bad. And naked why is there naked people? Like there's a leak. There's a leak.
Oh yeah, you shouldn't really notice it though.
And wait, another demon. Why are there demons on the wall? Like, I'm scared. And then there's like a garage door that it looks like it can open, and this lock does not look safe. Like, literally, like, what is going on? Anyways, I usually stay in hostels, but my friend here thought that hostels would be gross, but hostels are so much cleaner than this and better than this.
That's pretty bad. I don't know that I'd be wanting to stay there, but there are tons of reports about people going to stay, and it's nothing like what's in the pictures. It's dirty. It's completely different. Yeah, and they're saying that's because there's so many listings. People are just putting the angles to make it look good, but not being truthful. There are tons of videos out there of people saying, oh, well, you got to only stay on the superhost, only do superhost. But then there's other people saying, yeah, I stayed with the superhost and it was just as bad. And they're apparently gaming the reviews. They'll call and say, did you have a good experience? And then if you say, yeah, then they'll then want to send you the review. And then there are reports of them harassing people to change their review, or offers for things if they'll change their reviews, which is unethical. It's very, very interesting, but it's very different than what it was not too long ago. There are also safety concerns with VRBO, stuff like cameras, which VRBO has changed their policy on that. They don't even allow outdoor cameras in a lot of instances now.
I have never once in all of my time using this app complained about a brand or a company, because it would take them doing something completely immoral for me to even bring it up. But the experience I just had with Airbnb is beyond me insane. So grab your popcorn, do your makeup, whatever you want to do. Listen to this story, because if you're a woman that uses Airbnb to travel alone, or you're a man, doesn't even matter. It's unsafe for everybody. But speaking from experience, you might want to reconsider using Airbnb. I will never use Airbnb again after this. Let me paint the scene. I had to go to New York for a funeral. I get to my Airbnb and there's the cleaning lady. She's still there. Even though this goes against their policies of having someone in the unit upon entry, I didn't care about this. I was just like, finish your job, whatever, la la la. And I jump into the bed in the Airbnb and I start looking at TikToks, and then 10 minutes later she's gone. 10 minutes pass and I hear the rustling of a doorknob. I hear someone trying to get into a unit. Mind you, this is a big house and it's a duplex, so there are a few units in this place. I don't even know how many, so I assumed that someone was trying to get into one of the other units based on how old the house was and how hollow it was. I just didn't think anything of it. And then I hear beep, 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 and I'm like, that sounds a lot like someone typing in a code to unlock a door. So I go out into the hallway of the Airbnb, and what do I find? It is a 6'5" beefy dude. Scary looking, okay? Any man would be scary looking in this situation, but he was like all on his own scary looking. So I'm trying not to freak out, but I'm like, hey, what's up? What are you doing here? And he says, I'm looking for my ID. And I'm like, okay, well, I'm not the host. I think you should call the host about this. You have to leave. And I'm still being nice, but he's now in the apartment with the door shut behind him, not leaving. And he's telling me, well, can you just go look for my ID? I walk backwards into the living room because I don't want to turn my back to this dude. And I'm looking in the apartment for his ID. And I'm like, nope, it's not here. You have to call the host and you got to leave. He pauses, looks at me up and down. And then he's like, are you sure it's not here? I don't know what the you're trying to get at, dude, but like, you need to leave. I was like, at that point, I was freaking out and I was basically just like backing him into the door and opening it up on my own to get him out. And by the grace of God, after 10 minutes of telling this man, this stranger, to leave the Airbnb, he finally leaves. I immediately call the host. She is not only unapologetic, but she then tells me that she doesn't change the code to the back door because there's a chain lock. Does it look like there's a chain lock on this door? I don't know, I could only tell because there was a stranger in my Airbnb. So basically, what she was admitting was that anybody that has ever stayed at this Airbnb has had access to this Airbnb at any time on any given day.
That is ridiculous. That is the one thing that, mind you, staying in a hotel can be less convenient because you don't have a kitchen, stuff like that. But this isn't something you have to worry about for the most part. They actually give you a fresh key card that only works on your door. And then when you leave, they're going to delete that. So yeah, it is a good question. I mean, I've stayed at Airbnbs before. I wonder how often they never change that keypad. I mean, because I'm sure it's a pain to change them. They make it seem like, oh, here's your code, but who knows if the person who stayed there the day before, the week before, the month before, used that exact same code and could decide that they just want to come back and have a little visit while you're there. And then you have a problem.
I just said millennials and Gen Z were moving away from Airbnb, and now they have just confirmed it. Airbnb has hit a major speed bump in demand. It's been doing the worst that it has since 2020 during the lockdown. For the third quarter straight, Airbnb gave a disappointing forecast, and it warned Wall Street that demand is slowing. Airbnb competitor Bookings Holdings is saying that it's seeing consumers opt for lower star hotels and shorter stays when they do book. So you know what that means. When more people start to go for lower star hotels, it's another sign of the downgrade economy, where consumers under pressure choose the cheapest option possible. Airbnb trends are playing out pretty much how I outlined. When it comes to singles and couples travel, people are opting out of Airbnbs and going for hotels. However, when larger groups of people can stay together and save some money, it's an opportune time for them to choose Airbnb. That's where Airbnb is seeing growth. But I doubt that stays for larger parties make up the bulk of the hotel and hospitality market. Airbnb still has its work cut out for it. Until they can make Airbnb a better deal for singles and couples, I'm not sure there will be a great investment going forward.
Real estate, I believe, is a great investment for the most part. Real estate typically trends upwards. There are some declines in the market, but if you look at the history of real estate, it pretty much always trends upwards. It's normally not a bad investment. Airbnbs, I think, are very risky investments. If you're trying to make gains, you need to really consider Airbnbs before you jump into that. And there are all kinds of courses saying, hey, pay for my course. I'll teach you how to make 50% return on investment every single year on your Airbnb and pay for your retirement. But just be very, very careful, folks, because while it might have been a good investment 3 years ago, things are changing. It's because of low quality hosts, safety concerns. People are tightening up their pocketbooks, which means they are moving towards lower price hotels. And whenever they do have more money, they're choosing international trips or higher quality, all-inclusive style trips or cruises. The biggest risk to an Airbnb investment comes in the form of regulation. We're going to take a look at a few videos regarding this. This is one that you might not be able to control and you might not be able to predict.
A federal judge just told Airbnb they don't have the right to short-term rentals in New Orleans. I'm Cassie, an investigative reporter here in New Orleans. Here's why this is a game changer and could restrict some people. Airbnb and some local property owners sued the city, saying that the new rental rules by the city council were vague and caused major financial losses, especially for those who spent thousands of dollars fixing up properties to live. But the judge shut it down, saying that there's no fundamental right to turn your home into a short-term rental. The decision keeps the city's ordinance in place. That law forces Airbnb and other platforms to verify listings before people can book, basically cracking down on unlicensed rentals. City leaders are calling this a huge win for residents. Council President J.P. Morrell said it proves that the city has the power to protect neighborhoods from being overrun by short-term rentals. Is this protecting affordable housing and neighborhoods, or is it an unfair blow to property owners trying to earn extra income? I have a feeling this isn't the end of this discussion because it's been controversial for quite some time.
Yeah, this isn't just a New Orleans thing. This is happening everywhere. Residents hate short-term rentals because people come in constantly going in and out. Some of the tenants are very loud, and HOAs are actually starting to put rules about this in place as well.
Unfortunately, Airbnbs or STR, short-term rentals, are not easy in Vegas. If you're caught doing an Airbnb, you could be fined up to $1,000 per day, and they will put that as a lien on your property. Clark County is no longer giving any STR permits to people who want to do short-term rental or Airbnb. It's because our state taxes are paid by the casinos. The casinos don't want to compete with Airbnb. Vegas is completely different. We have over 500,000 rooms in one day. So if you want to do short-term rental, you need to do short-term rentals of over 30 days. If your property do not fit in that criteria of a short-term rental, forget it. You will not be able to get that license. And whoever has that short-term rental license, you can't give it to the next short-term rental owner. You can't sell it as a business. Unfortunately, that license is only permitted for that licensee, and that's it. If you find a property that has a homeowners association, forget it. You can't even do it. And in Vegas, I'd say at least 80% of our properties have a homeowners association. So I'm so sorry, but I just want to be real with you. It's really hard to get an Airbnb or a short-term license.
And guys, this is the case more and more places, and residents, they're fighting this. You saw the people in the meeting with the STR, with the line through it shirts. The last time that I went to Florida, I was driving through a neighborhood. There were tons of signs about voting for no short-term rentals allowed. So this might be a thing. And if you bought one with the intentions of this, then these regulations can make it really difficult to sell.
So the city of Houston just passed some new regulations that have an effect on the short-term rental business. All short-term rental property owners must register their property with the city of Houston, which incurs an annual fee of $275 per property. Additionally, short-term rental owners cannot advertise their properties as event spaces. Other requirements of these new regulations consist of new training that owners must have, as well as having a 24-hour emergency contact available for tenants. The city will begin enforcing these regulations January 1st, 2026. Starting August 1st of this year, you can start registering your short-term rental properties. So I'm curious to hear your thoughts. Do you believe that this is going to shift the short-term rental business in Houston, or do you believe that business will continue as normal? Feel free to comment below and follow me for more real estate news. Peace.
Yeah, these regulations in some cities are out of control. Like there was one in Arizona where in order to use your property as short-term rental, you had to have everyone who is coming to your property have a background check. If they were on any kind of offenders list, they had to register, which is insane to ask somebody to do for a couple-day rental. So they're just making these difficult hoops for people to jump through, which really turns down the market. And the thing about these, in the past, you could just ignore some of these regulations and nobody was the wiser. However, they're now requiring Airbnb to certify these rentals. That way, Airbnb can be held responsible if a host doesn't do it. So Airbnb is requiring these things, which means that you can't get away like you could before with just not getting a license. So they're going to make sure that you are licensed and you're following through with the things that are required in order for you to continue using their platform, which changes the game for a lot of folks who were just flying under the radar. And this is happening all over. This isn't just in the US, this is happening in Europe as well.
This is how London and other major cities protect the hotel industry. You can't rent your place in London for more than 90 days on Airbnb. If you try and put your place on rent for more than 90 days a year on Airbnb, you won't be allowed, because London have introduced a law where they want to prevent Airbnbs growing so that the hospitality industry, i.e. hotels, can stay popular and in demand and not fall. And they're not the only city to do it.
So not only do you have to worry about people not wanting to come because of safety concerns, expensive insurance, inflated prices, high interest rates, and then also like people worried about getting catfished, that kind of thing. Then you have to worry about government regulations. And finally, you have to worry about the people that are staying in your properties. Some of these folks do not take good care of your property, and there's little you can do about it.
You wanted updates on the guest that destroyed my house. I actually got more of the story, so I'm going to tell you where we are now. This is part 2 of the video where I literally showed how a guest destroyed one of my Airbnbs in St. Louis, Missouri. For anyone who didn't see my last video, I had an Airbnb that looked like this.
Beautiful.
Then I had guests book the property, and by the time that they checked out, it looked like this. The Airbnb was completely destroyed. Here you can see more photos of what the guests did. At first glance, I thought we were going to have tens of thousands of dollars of damage just because everything looked destroyed, but my team was actually able to save some of it. All right, so I'm gonna go all the way back. When it first happened, one of our team members reached out and said, we have a serious situation at the address of the Airbnb, and then said the unit is completely destroyed. Honestly, I'm pretty shaken up, so is the cleaner. Then she said that the guest was involved in an altercation that led to a shooting. 2 siblings booked this property. It was a brother and a sister. The sister did not stay there, only the brother did, and then he invited his girlfriend over. Apparently, they got into an altercation and the girlfriend destroyed the home. When they checked out, the boyfriend came outside with a gun and started shooting at the car that she got inside of. We did call the police. When everything first happened, we reached out to the guests, but they told us it was actually the girlfriend that destroyed everything and that we should contact her. When we tried to contact the girlfriend, we realized it was her mom's number. I don't think her mom understood the extent to which she damaged the home. The mom was like, I'm so sorry, I'm so embarrassed. I will take care of it all. Just let me know how much. Obviously, I showed you guys the photos. Pretty much everything was destroyed. The TVs, the fireplaces, the couches, thousands of dollars of items. So here's where we're at currently. We submitted an air cover claim for $7,369.89. Honestly, I'm surprised. I thought it was going to be more, but our team was able to salvage a lot and put it all back together. Not everything was broken. A lot of things were just misplaced, thrown around, but they weren't necessarily broken, or our team was able to fix it. The things we weren't able to save, we put in an air cover request for. So the total damage was $7,369. We had to submit photos for everything that was damaged along with prices. Here you can see all the things that we had to submit. Even creating this air cover claim took so much time from our team just because you had to go through and submit photos of everything along with the price that it originally was. This is the gun that he used to shoot at the girlfriend's car when she left. Thankfully, no one was hurt. The property obviously did get damaged. We're working on repairing it. The saddest part is it's not just my hard work, it's my students' hard work. There's a lot that goes into setting up these properties, running a business. That's the update I have for you guys right now. When Airbnb reimburses us, I will maybe make another video and just show you guys where we're at.
So you got to worry about these kind of clowns coming in and tearing up your place and shooting up neighbors. I mean, this is insane. These are the kind of people that might be staying in your place. They come in for a couple nights. You think you're making $40, but instead you have to replace all of your furniture, all of your electronics. You have to take hours to clean the place up, which you've got to pay for. And then you've got to go through and document all this stuff, which is insane. Think about how long that would take to document this, hours. And then on top of that, you're losing income while you're trying to figure all this out. So you're having to pay for everything in the meantime, lose income. I mean, what a nightmare. you imagine coming in and seeing this? Yeah, like, this is so nasty. Dog bowl. Yeah, it's disgusting. I saw another one where there was a birthday party. They had taped things to the wall. When they peeled it off, paint came off the wall. They left streamers everywhere. They'd broken a window. And even whenever the cleaning crew came in, there was like 3 or 4 cars still sitting there. I don't know where the people were, but the whole house was destroyed. These are the kinds of things you've got to deal with, which is just crazy. I don't know that everybody has to deal with this kind of thing, but it's still just a crazy idea that you're renting out your house to a stranger who might destroy your place. Think about these things if you're considering purchasing a short-term rental. Like I said before, property is a good investment. Short-term rentals might not be the best investment right now just because of all these factors. There was an interview with Robert Kiyosaki where he said that short-term rentals are going to lead to the next market crash. And the reason for that is because folks who own short-term rentals are going to start putting them on the market, which there already are. I mean, like the lady said with the Carolina beaches, there's tons of them. I looked at it yesterday. There were thousands of condos in Myrtle Beach that seem reasonably priced. They're like $200,000 for a 2-bedroom, 2-bath condo. And then you got to pay a $1,500 a month maintenance fee. So these condos are coming on the market because people aren't making money on them. So they're going to start decreasing them as they don't sell and as they sit vacant. Robert Kiyosaki's idea is that as more and more of these come on the market, it's going to drive prices down, and then that's going to impact housing prices for people who aren't renting out their place as a short-term rental, just because they're competing with these folks trying to dump this bad investment. So hopefully that doesn't happen. We will see. That is all for today, folks. So you might want to reconsider the STR idea. I know people are still doing it, and there's a lot of people making a lot of money. I think the important thing, as with any investment, is the point at which you enter. If you can enter at a really good deal, and in a few years you can refinance, or to the first lady's point, use cash. That will be your best bet, and it might actually be profitable for you. There's always the option of doing longer term rentals. But anyway, guys, keep making gains, make those smart decisions. If you like this kind of content, we do this twice a week. So every Monday and Thursday, I put out videos. Please like and subscribe. That helps the channel. Until next time.